Who gets to tell history? Sometimes artists challenge us to explore dark events in our country's past. Here, students react strongly to a piece by the artist Gary Simmons titled Duck Duck Noose.
When I saw this, I felt really, really ashamed to identify as a white American because I just think of all the terrible things that they did, and I just felt dirty, and I needed to just shed that piece of my identity. Seeing stuff like this and the branding of the slaves and stuff like that, I don't even want to identify as a white American, despite all the great things we've done. This made me feel so horrible about what my ancestors have done and stuff like that. It's just horrible.
And even some states, I've heard Kansas actually has banned certain textbooks from being used as a standardized textbook because they talk too much about what white people have done wrong and stuff. So Kansas actually banned the class of AP US history because they don't want people talking about this. So I read two different books, two main textbooks for my class, and one was sold by a company that's goal is to reach out to everyone. So the whole community is expected to be reading this book. And I read that one, and it never really talked about the oppression that people went through. But then the second book I read was by Howard Zinn, A People's History of the U.S., and he told it from the perspective of the oppressed. And it was really interesting because a lot of their troubles that I read about in their book was not actually mentioned at all in the main textbook that most people read. And it's really sad because we're just kind of avoiding it and pretending that we're a great nation.
I understand what she's saying. It's totally true because I remember learning about this in school last year in my U.S. history class. And when we talked about it, some people had no idea what it was. It was their first time hearing about it. And I was just kind of it was just kind of crazy because I was how did you never hear about the Ku Klux Klan? It was a huge ordeal because I knew it because I'm African American, so I knew it was a really big impact in my history. So I thought it's kind of crazy to me that other individuals that are not African American did not know what the Ku Klux Klan was.
I feel it's American will always have this facade of home of the brave, land of the free kind of thing, and that's where the fine print comes in. If you're white, if you live to this social standard, if you have this kind of neighborhood around you, if you have these kind of friends, I think that people don't usually want to talk about it because it's just the blemish of America's history, and no one ever wants to be associated with killing innocent people just due to something simple the color of the skin, the way they look, and a big portion of why we don't want to teach it is because no one wants to talk about it because it's so bad for us. But I feel the more open we become about it, the more we can actually learn from our mistakes instead of going back towards this, because history can repeat itself, and people don't want it to happen again. I can't even think of the word. It's permissible violence. You're allowed to see how in the back it's all formal, and then in the middle there's Ku Klux Klan members, the hats of them, with a noose, and it seems kind of statement on today how sometimes it may not be obvious, but the abuse, whether it be social, verbal, or physical, is still allowed in some way, shape, or form. So I don't think we've really grown out of what they really stood for back there. I don't think we've made a giant leap farther as we think we have.
So I don't know if you guys heard about the incident that happened at Bloomfield Middle School. And this little kid was, an African American boy was called racial slurs by more than two Caucasian boys, and it kind of was degrading. Not even just for racism, but for humanity. Have we really gone back? That was a step back from the evolution that everybody thinks that we have come to.
I feel it's something to think about, how often do you help your neighbor, or how often do you actually care about somebody that's actually in need?
The stereotypes are still alive and well today, and it kind of just made me think, even though I don't get it personally, and I'm Muslim, and 9/11 and everything, a lot of people have told me that they've been called names and called terrorists, and it just made me think why do we choose to why do we try to keep fighting each other when the solution is so simple and easy?
I feel like the divide between the two sides of liberalism, especially conservatism, like wanting to have these discussions, kind of like, where do we go from this? We did this horrible thing, what should we do with it? Should we ignore it? Should we accept it? Should we work from it to create like a better America? And then those who kind of push it away. And I feel like that division's becoming stronger and stronger, and maybe our powers are becoming like fighting each other rather than working towards that ideal.
Where do we go from here? The students spent time questioning whether or not history books tell the whole history, and what happens when some people's perspective is left out. So how is history told? And what's the value of seeking out a more complete story?